grateful to Richard for the opportunity to tell you about the impact the Prince's Trust has had on my life. I'll start by telling you what my life was like before the Prince's Trust got involved. I grew up in the East End of London, in the borough of Newham, in various children's homes. I got kicked out of 2 schools. I always say I got kicked out of 2 schools, and someone recently reminded me I got kicked out of 1 school. The second school, I started bunking off days here and there, realised I wasn't getting in any trouble for it, so I just stopped going. So I always say I left school at 15 with no GCSEs, which is true. I never sat the GCSEs, but it wasn't like I got kicked out of school. I just stopped going. None of the social workers seemed to notice, and no one seemed bothered. When I tell people the next part of my story, I normally get asked the question, how did you fall into crime? And when you grow up in Newham, and it's very much the same today in Newham, Tower Hamlets, and lots of parts of the UK, you don't fall into crime. You're surrounded by crime, and if you're not involved in crime, even in a small petty way, you're actually the odd one out. So I was surrounded by drug dealing, car thieves, all sorts of crime. I managed to avoid a lot of it. By the time I was 19, I found myself skint. I owed people money. I couldn't pay the rent for where I was living. Some guys that I'd grown up with, I knew were involved with drug trafficking. And to me, it seemed an easy way to make some money. So I got involved with a gang of young guys at a similar age to me at the time, sort of between 19 and 25, that were moving ecstasy pills from the UK to the US. One trip, the courier dropped out. By this point, I'd been going a few times. I had a girlfriend in the US I was looking forward to see. So I said, hey, I'll do it. It's easy. I got off the plane in Atlanta and was promptly arrested with 6,500 ecstasy tablets. I served a small amount of time in the US before getting brought back to the UK, where I served a 5-year prison sentence. And it was whilst I was in prison, coming towards the end of my sentence, that some volunteers from the Prince's Trust came into the prison and spoke about what they do and the way that they help people to start businesses. And that was a real eye-opener for me. I had assumed that to start a business, you probably need some sort of qualification. You probably need to have gone to Cambridge or Oxford. I didn't know anyone that ran a business, never mind thought of it as an option for me. The other thing I remember from prison was seeing these other guys that had pictures of their kids pinned up on the wall. And I always remember being grateful that I was doing my time on my own. I had no family, no children I was missing like these guys were. So by the time I was released, my girlfriend very quickly got pregnant. And I decided I didn't want to be one of these guys that I remembered from prison, and it was time that I went straight. So I got in touch with the Prince's Trust and asked if they could help me. I was self-taught as a programmer from the time that I've spent when I was kicked out of school in a children's homes. I'd picked up a ZX Spectrum and taught myself to program it. So I had some skills that I thought I could perhaps sell. And I really think that I thought at that point that if I went to the Prince's Trust, I'd get a cheque for £5,000, a pat on the head, and they'd send me on my way. For anyone that's given money to the trust, you'll be pleased to know that isn't how it works. I was assigned somebody that helped me work through my business plan over a period of about 3 or 4 months, and eventually I got a loan for £2,500 and a grant for £1,500. And that paid for my desk, my computer, business cards, all the basics, and that's what really got me started in business. But with hindsight, rather than just the money, it was a lot of the workshops they put on really helped me to learn a lot more, and that was of as much, if not more, value than the money. So I started as a web developer, and I really struggled with the accounting side of things. So Sage wasn't as wonderful as it is now under Stephen's reign. The products back then were a little bit clunky, and as an SME, I couldn't understand them. So I developed something for me to use myself. And again, through a course the Prince's Trust put on, I realised this is what I should be doing. I should be building this as a product and selling that. Around this time, I met Lord Young, who saw some potential in what I was doing and offered to invest, which he did. We called the product Cashflow with a K. And with Lord Young's guidance and mentoring over the next few years, we grew and grew that business to, in 2013, we had just under 20,000 customers. And we'd had a few acquisition offers over the years, but all ones that I felt I could probably just about turn down. Whereas this time I was made an offer I couldn't refuse. We're not disclosing terms, so I can't tell you it was around £20 million. And once I sold the business, the first thing I did was to give some money back to the Prince's Trust. Because if it wasn't for the support that I got from them, the money, the workshops, And I think importantly, the self-belief that they gave me, then this whole journey, this story just wouldn't have been possible. So on behalf of my wife, my now 3 children, my 3 girls, to any of you that have ever supported the Trust over the years, a big thank you. I'll hand you over to Tara from the Prince's Trust that can tell you a lot more. Thank you.